It was a quiet night on Mars Outpost 9. The red desert was still, and the wind moved slowly across the sand. Leo Carter sat alone on the roof of his small station, watching the stars. He had been living here for almost 3 years, away from wooed Earth, away from people. He liked the silence. He was a former soldier, tired of war, tired of lies. Mars gave him peace. Until tonight, suddenly, the sky lit up with a flash. A bright blue light shot across the stars and crashed behind the canyon. The ground shook slightly, and a strange humming filled the air. Leo stood up, eyes wide. "Tah! That's not a meteor," he whispered. Without wasting time, he grabbed his rifle, a flashlight, and jumped on his sandbike. He drove fast through the dark desert, following the smoke in the distance. Whatever fell from the sky, it was big as he reached the crash site. He saw broken trees and burning rocks. In the center was a strange ship, small and silver, with symbols he didn't understand. The ship was not human. It had curves like wings and glowed with soft blue lights. Leo stepped carefully, pointing his flashlight at the door. It was half open, with smoke coming out. Inside, he heard a soft sound. Like someone crying, he moved in slowly, heart pounding, and then he saw her. A girl, no, not fully human. She had pale blue skin, silver hair, and glowing green eyes. She wore a torn suit with shining metal parts. She looked hurt. Her leg was bleeding. And she held her side in pain when she saw Leo. She gasped and raised a small device at him. "Easy," Leo said, dropping his rifle and raising his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl looked at him with fear. She said something in a strange language, soft, musical, but urgent. Leo shook his head. "I don't understand you." She fell back against the wall, weak and scared. But Leo could see it in her eyes. She needed help. He looked around, heard distant sounds. Something was scanning the area. Drones, maybe, or soldiers. Someone else was looking for her. Leo made a choice. He picked her up gently. She didn't resist. He carried her out of the ship and onto his bike. "I don't know who you are," he said, "but I think you're in trouble." They sped off across the desert, the girl's head resting on his shoulder in the sky. A small black drone watched them and flew back into the clouds. Back at the outpost, Leo laid her on his bed and brought his medical kit. He cleaned the wound on her leg and wrapped it. She winced in pain, but didn't fight him. Then he brought water and food. She looked at the bottle, unsure, but took a sip. "Water," Leo said, pointing. "It's okay." She stared at him, studying his face, slowly. She reached into her pocket and took out a small silver box. She pressed it, and a soft light flashed. "Do you understand me now?" she asked, in broken English. Leo blinked, surprised. "You can speak?" he said. "A little," she nodded weakly. "Translator. Device. What's your name?" Leo asked. "Kylara," she said. "I'm from Narian. Never heard of it," Leo replied. She closed her eyes. "They want to kill me." "Who?" "Bad people, human and Narian." Working together, Leo sat back, confused and curious. "Why?" "I'm important," she said softly. "Too important." Suddenly, his scanner beeped. Something was coming fast. He looked at the screen. 3 heat signatures, moving toward the outpost. "They found us," he said, standing up. He loaded his rifle. "Turned off all lights. We have to hide." Kylara tried to stand, but fell. Leo caught her. "You stay here," he said. "I'll deal with them." He moved to the roof. Rifle-ready eyes on the red sand. In the distance, small lights approached. Figures in black armor, carrying pulse rifles. They weren't here to talk. They were here to finish what they started. As they came closer, Leo took aim. He wasn't a soldier anymore. But tonight, he would fight again. Not for war, not for orders, but for a girl from the stars, who trusted him. The first shot rang out in the night. The battle had begun. Asterisk, a thin line of smoke rose in the early Martian sky. The wind carried the smell of burning wires and melted metal. Inside Outpost 9, silence had returned, but not peace. Leo stood at the window, watching the red dunes. His heart was calm, but his hands gripped the rifle tightly. He had seen war before, but this felt different. This was not just a fight. This was a trap, and someone had already pulled the string downstairs. Kylara sat on the floor beside the power core. Her breathing was slow, her eyes half closed. The translator on her chest blinked with low energy. Leo knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" "I will live," she whispered. Her voice was stronger than last night, but her body was still weak. "Those soldiers," Leo asked, "who were they?" Kylara opened her eyes, glowing faintly green. "They work for a group called the Black Directive." Leo frowned. "That doesn't sound friendly." Kylara looked away. "They were part of a peace mission once, but then they changed," she continued. "Now they work in secret, taking power from both sides, human and alien. They want me? Because I carry something they fear." Leo leaned closer. "What is it?" Kylara hesitated, then pointed to her heart. "Not a weapon," she said. "A code in my DNA. Something ancient, something alive." Leo didn't understand fully, but he knew one thing. She was in danger, and now, so was he. He had broken protocol, helped an unknown alien, and attacked soldiers. If Earth Command found out, they'd send a kill team before asking questions. He needed help. But there was no one he could trust, except one man. "Dr. Meko," he muttered. Kylara turned to him. "Who is that?" "A ghost," Leo replied, "but if he's still alive, he'll know what to do." Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed through the outpost. The security system had triggered again. Leo checked the monitor, expecting another patrol, but this was different. A black dot hovered just outside the window, perfectly still. It was no drone he had ever seen. It had no sound, no light, just a smooth, glass-like surface. Kylara's eyes widened. "That's not human tech," she whispered. "It's a shadow seeker." Leo raised his rifle. "What does it seek?" "Me," she replied, "and anyone who helps me," before Leo could fire. The drone vanished like smoke in the wind. No trace, no sound, just gone. He turned to Kylara. "Pack everything. We're leaving. Where will we go?" "Underground," he said. "Far off grid, where satellites can't see us." Kylara nodded, but her hands trembled. Leo noticed and knelt again. "Hey," he said softly, "I've got your back." She looked at him for a long second, then whispered, "Why?" "You're not the first person I've seen hunted," Leo said. "But maybe you'll be the first I can actually save." They left within the hour, riding an old sandcrawler across the rocky fields. Behind them, Outpost 9 stood quiet, waiting. Above it, high in orbit, a hidden satellite turned its lens to follow. Inside a control room far away, a voice spoke through static. "Target is moving south. Initiate tracking mode. Do not engage until orders come from level black." Another voice answered, and the human. "Ex-soldier," the first replied, marked unstable. "Permission to terminate if necessary." Meanwhile, the crawler entered a narrow canyon, where walls reached high into the orange sky. Kylara looked around nervously. They will not stop. They never stop. Leo kept his eyes ahead, scanning with heat sensors. "If they want to play shadow games," he said, "let's give them something to chase." He pulled a small device from his bag and tossed it outside. The decoy unit flashed once, then sped in the opposite direction. It sent out false signals, showing Kylara's DNA trail leading west. Leo turned south, deeper into the rock. Maze, nice trick, Kylara said. I learned from the best. He said with a grin. She smiled weakly. You're not like the others. I get that a lot, Leo replied. As night fell again, they reached a sealed tunnel. Old and rusty, Leo punched in a code and the doors creaked open. Inside was dark but safe. This place, Kylara asked, what is it? Leo looked around the abandoned lab, Dr. Meko's last known hideout. He said, if he's still alive, he's here, and if not? Leo flipped on the lights and stepped inside. Then we make a stand. But what they didn't know was that something else had already entered the tunnels. Something ancient, crawling through the vents. Drawn to Kylara's presence, it didn't wear armor. It didn't carry weapons. It moved in silence. With eyes like burning coals, and it was already too close. Asterisk, there was something alive in the dark, not a creature of flesh, but of energy. It moved like smoke through the old vents of the underground lab. It was silent, cold, watching. Leo didn't know it was there. Kylara didn't feel it yet. But the lab felt heavier with each breath, like the walls were listening inside the main chamber. Leo wiped dust off the control panel. Screens blinked weakly. Machines hummed low. The place had been abandoned for years, but the systems still worked. Dr. Meko was a genius. Leo whispered. He didn't believe in shutting things down. Kylara sat on a metal bench, holding her hands together. The light above her flickered. And for a moment, her eyes glowed brighter. She looked at Leo, then at the machines. I know this place, she said softly. Leo turned. You've been here before? No, she said, but I've seen it. In my dreams. Leo raised an eyebrow. Dreams? Kylara nodded. I used to see these walls, the machines, the voices calling my name. I thought they were memories from my world, but maybe they're not. Leo stepped closer. Kylara, he said, you told me they want your DNA. Why? She looked down, silent. Then she slowly rolled up her sleeve and pressed her finger to her wrist. A soft light shined from under her skin, tiny glowing patterns moving like circuits. I'm not just from Narian, she said. I'm not fully anything. Leo stared, speechless. My mother was human. She continued, a scientist. From Earth, she worked with Dr. Meko in a secret lab hidden in deep space. She met my father, a Narian royal, during a peace summit. They were both dreamers. She smiled faintly. They wanted a world where humans and aliens lived as one. Leo leaned against the wall, trying to process it. So, you're the child of two worlds. Kylara nodded. But why do they want you dead? He asked. Her face turned cold. Because I am proof, she said. Proof that peace is possible. That unity can exist, but some powerful people want control, not peace. She stood and walked to a machine with a glowing handprint scanner. She looked at Leo, then placed her hand on it. The machine beeped, then spoke in a calm voice. Welcome. Subject K1. Kylara flinched. I hate that name, she whispered. Leo looked at the screen. Data began to flow, fast and endless. What is this? He asked. The original files, she replied. My creation. My curse. Images appeared, files, logs, test results. Kylara wasn't just born, she was engineered. Designed by humans, grown in a hybrid chamber. Her DNA mixed with ancient Narian blood. A key was placed inside her, something old. Something powerful, something that could connect her to ancient technology buried across the galaxy. Dr. Meko helped create me, she said, but when he found out what Earth Command planned to do, he vanished. Leo stepped back, shocked. So, you're the key to some ancient weapon. Kylara shook her head. Not a weapon, she said, a gate. A system of energy that can either connect life or destroy it. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. Leo spun around, gun raised from the shadows. Something stepped forward. It wasn't a soldier. It was a shape, tall, smooth, black like liquid metal, eyes like red fire, limbs shifting like smoke. Kylara gasped. It's a reclaimer. Leo aimed. What the hell is that? They come for broken tech, Kylara whispered. And people like me. The creature raised a long arm, energy building. Leo fired, but the bullets passed through like mist. Run, Kylara shouted, grabbing Leo's arm. They raced down a side tunnel as the creature followed without sound. Behind them, walls cracked, lights burst. Machines melted from its energy. This place has a launch pod, Kylara shouted. Leo coughed through the smoke. How do you know? I don't, she said, but I remember. They reached a metal chamber with a round escape hatch. Kylara slammed her hand onto the panel. Nothing. System offline, a voice said. Leo ripped open the cover and began rewiring. The creature moved closer. Just outside the door, Leo sparked the wire and the panel turned green. Go. He shouted. They jumped inside and slammed the hatch. The pod launched upward through the old shaft, shaking hard. Below them, the creature screamed, not in pain, but in hunger. It wasn't done. It never stopped as the pod soared into the ed. Sky. Kylara looked at Leo, tears in her eyes. They won't stop chasing me. Leo looked out at the stars. Then, we don't stop running, but we find Meko, he said. And we make them afraid of you. Kylara smiled through her. Fear, or, she whispered, we make them afraid of us, far above. A satellite turned to follow them. Inside its core, a hidden voice said, Target escaped, reclaimer failed, begin phase 2. Asterisk, the escape pod landed in silence. No crash, no flames, just a soft hiss as the metal cooled. It had traveled through an underground launch tunnel, forgotten by most, but not by Alqui. But not by Kylara, not by her dreams. Leo kicked the hatch open, rifle ready. Around them was complete darkness. Only the pod's lights lit the path ahead. A tunnel stretched forward, filled with dust and echoes. Where are we? He asked Kylara. Stepped out slowly. We're close. Leo looked around. Close to what? She answered, her voice low. The place I was born. The air was colder here. The metal walls were old, but still humming. Something was awake, even after all this time. Leo's boots echoed as he walked deeper into the tunnel. He had seen war zones, bunkers, hidden bases, but this place felt different. It felt alive. They reached a wide chamber. Sealed by a massive metal door, a handprint scanner waited in silence. Kylara looked nervous. Leo stepped forward. Want me to try? Kylara shook her head. No, only I can open it. She pressed her glowing hand against the scanner. A soft light swept over her skin, scanning the patterns in her blood. Then the door unlocked with a deep rumble. It slid open, revealing. The lab inside were machines of every shape. Glowing tanks, data panels, cryopods, and at the center, a large glass cylinder with green light inside. It was like stepping into a forgotten temple of science. Leo whispered, What is this place? Kylara walked slowly, looking at every corner like she remembered it. This is where they made me, she said. This was Dr. Meko's hidden lab. They explored in silence. Only their footsteps breaking the stillness. Screens flickered. With half-broken files, Kylara found an old data console and wiped off the dust. Do you think Meko is still alive? Leo asked. Kylara didn't answer, but her fingers tapped quickly on the controls. Files opened, memories from another life. There were logs, videos, voices from the past. One video played automatically. A man with gray hair and tired eyes appeared. This is Dr. Meko, he said, voice slow and serious. If you're watching this, then the plan has failed. Kylara stepped closer, heart pounding. You were never meant to be a weapon, Meko said. You were meant to choose. To connect worlds, not destroy them. But they wanted power. They corrupted the program. Leo looked at Kylara. He knew what they'd try. Kylara nodded. He tried to stop it. Meko's voice continued. If you find this lab, it means I'm either dead or in hiding. I've gone to a place called the Divide. Far beyond known space. Come find me, and we'll finish what we started. Then the video ended. Tay's silence returned. Kylara turned to Leo. We have to find him. Leo nodded. But first, we survive. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the lab. Unknown signal detected. A robotic voice said, Leo grabbed his weapon. We've been tracked. Kylara looked up at the ceiling where vents began to hiss. From above, black smoke poured in. But it wasn't smoke, it was moving. The reclaimer had followed. It oozed from the vents like a shadow, forming into its deadly shape. This time, it wasn't alone. Two more emerged from the dark, silent as ghosts. Kylara backed up, her eyes glowing. They're multiplying, she said, voice trembling. They were never meant to leave the old worlds. Leo opened fire, but the bullets passed through again. Kylara ran to the main console, fingers flying across keys. I can overload the energy core, she shouted. Leo turned, shocked. That'll blow the lab. Exactly, she said. We don't need the lab, we need the map. She pulled a crystal chip from the panel and held it tightly. Let's run, she said, eyes on fire. Leo didn't argue this time. They raced down a maintenance tunnel as the lights exploded behind them. The reclaimers shrieked, chasing. Through walls, Kylara reached a sealed vent and slammed the emergency release. They jumped inside just as the lab exploded behind them, the blast echoing like thunder. Flames chased them, but the vent slammed shut just in time. Dust filled the tunnel, heat pressing against the walls. After what felt like hours, they climbed out into the open, gasping. They were in the canyon again, under the Martian moons. Leo coughed. That was close. Kylara held up the glowing chip. This has the coordinates, she said, to the Divide. Leo looked at her. That's where we find Meko. Kylara nodded, and maybe the truth about what I really am. But above them, in orbit, a cloaked Earth command ship opened a secret channel. Subject K1 has escaped again, a voice said coldly. Send the shadow unit. This time, no survivors. Asterisk, the stars moved like whispers across the black void. Leo sat in the cockpit of a stolen shuttle, staring at the swirling lights outside, behind them. Mars was shrinking into a red dot. Ahead, the unknown Kylara stood beside him, holding the crystal chip tightly. She had not slept since the lab exploded. There was no time to rest, no time to mourn. The only thing that mattered now was getting to Nerion. The ship's AI buzzed softly. Coordinates locked, preparing for wormhole jump. Leo sighed, gripping the controls. I hate jumps, he muttered. Kylara smiled slightly. I was born during one. Leo glanced at her. Figures? The wormhole opened like a giant blue eye. Energy crackled all around. The ship shook violently, metal screaming against the pull. And then silence. They had entered deep space. And in front of them, glowing with green oceans and twin rings, was Nerion, a planet hidden by cosmic storms and political secrets, home to Kylara's blood, her pain, her throne. Leo stared at the view. It's beautiful. Kylara's voice became quiet. It used to be. She tapped the screen, revealing orbital scans. Now, its controlled human warships circled the planet like vultures, and the royal palace turned into a fortress. They've taken everything, she said. My people. They think I'm dead. Leo turned to her. Then let's bring you back to life. Kylara looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. She leaned in closer. You don't know what they'll do to you if you're caught. Leo smirked. I've been hunted by shadow monsters, shot at by Earth Command, and chased. Through fire, what's a little political drama? Kylara blinked, then laughed for the first time, a soft, nervous laugh. Leo watched her, not like a soldier, but like something more, something human, something real. The ship began descent, cloaked by old stealth tech, hidden in Meko's ship. They passed through the clouds of Nerion unseen. Below them, a once bright city now lay in ruins, towers broken, statues defaced. Patrols crawling like insects, they landed in the old Eastern District, where rebels still lived in the shadows. Kylara led the way, her feet knowing the path her mind had almost forgotten. Children peeked from windows, old merchants whispered in corners when they saw her glowing eyes. They froze, they remembered that light. A woman stepped forward, gray hair, sharp eyes. Kylara. She asked, voice shaking. Kylara nodded. It's me, Mira. The woman dropped to one knee, and the others followed. She lives, someone whispered. The princess lives, inside a stone bunker lit by firelight. The rebels gathered. They told her of the suffering, the fear, the disappearances. Her uncle had seized the throne with help from Earth Command. He told the people Kylara had betrayed them. And he had used a weapon, one only the royal bloodline could control. That's impossible, Kylara said. That weapon responds only to me. The rebels looked away. One of them, a young boy, said, then, maybe he has someone like you. Leo stood quietly in the corner, listening. Every piece of this puzzle made him more certain. This wasn't just politics. This was war across galaxies. And someone was building copies of Kylara suddenly. An alarm buzzed. A scout ran into the room. Enemy patrol approaching 20 soldiers. The rebels armed themselves, preparing for battle. Leo locked eyes with Kylara. You ready? She nodded. Always. But instead of joining the firefight, Leo had a better idea. He whispered something to Kylara. A plan. Risky, but brilliant. She smiled. You want me to go into the lion's den? Leo grinned. Only if you want. You're thrown back. As the battle erupted outside, Kylara slipped into the shadows with Leo. They made their way through the sewer tunnels toward the palace. Every step was closer to danger, but every step also brought Kylara closer to who she was meant to be. At the final gate, Leo stopped her. He looked into her glowing eyes and said, you don't have to do this alone. Kylara took his hand and whispered, I know. She leaned closer, resting her forehead against his for just 1 second. Then she stepped into the light. Princess, no more. Now, she was a storm, but high above, in a dark tower, her uncle. Watch the screen, she's returned, he said coldly. Beside him stood a figure that looked almost like Kylara, but with red eyes and no soul. The clone smiled without feeling. This time the uncle said, she will lose, asterisk thunder. Rolled across the skies of Nerion, but it wasn't a storm. It was the sound of engines, weapons, and war. From the royal tower to the broken streets, the planet was preparing for one final battle. Leo stood on a rooftop, staring at the black clouds rising above the palace. His hands were dirty, his armor was cracked, but his eyes were focused. Beside him, Kylara adjusted her battle gear, a suit of dark metal fused with Nerion crystal. The people had called her a ghost, a lie, a lost dream. But now, she was their spark, their fury, their queen. In the rebel camps, warriors sharpened blades, loaded rifles, and painted their skin with old tribal marks. Drums echoed through the canyon like a heartbeat from every hidden tunnel and every shadowed alley. Freedom fighters rose today. They would take back the throne. At the palace, the enemy waited. Kalar's uncle sat on a golden throne that was not his. Beside him stood the clone Kylara's perfect mirror. But this version did not smile, did not blink. She was made from Kylara's DNA, but built to obey, she will come. The uncle said, sipping dark wine, and she will die. Back. In the city, Leo handed Kylara a small earpiece. You don't have to go alone. He said. Kylara shook her head. This is my fight. Leo looked into her eyes. Then, don't hold back. The rebels launched the assault at dawn. Smoke covered the sky. Gunships screamed overhead. Leo led the first wave. Clearing guard towers with sniper shots, explosions rocked the palace gates, and rebel tanks rolled through the streets. For the first time in years, the people of Narian saw a chance to win. Kylara entered through the old royal passage under the city. Her feet knew every stone, every curve. She reached the inner sanctum, the throne room. Her uncle stood there, waiting. You returned, he said, with a cruel smile. You should have stayed dead. Kylara stepped forward, calm and unafraid. I came to fix your mistake. He snapped his fingers, and the clone stepped forward. She wore the same face, same voice, same eyes, but no soul, you see? He said, the people don't need you. They just need the idea of you. Kylara shook her head. That's the difference, she said. I'm real. The clone attacked first, fast. Sharp, robotic blades clashed, energy sparked, and the room shook with every strike. Kylara fought with rage and memory. She had trained for peace, not war, but tonight she became something else. While they fought above, Leo reached the power core room. He planted charges on the towers. Shield generators. If he could shut them down, the rebel ships could strike from the sky. But guards swarmed him, and a blade cut across his back. He fell, bleeding, gasping, alone. The clone pinned Kylara to the wall. You're weak, it whispered. Too emotional, Kylara looked into its hollow eyes. I feel pain, she said. I feel love, and that's why I win. She activated the crystal on her suit, blasting the clone with pure memory, images of her childhood, her mother, her people, her bond with Leo. The clone screamed, not in pain, but confusion. It couldn't handle emotion, and with one final strike, Kylara shattered it into light. At the same moment, Leo reached for the detonator. But his hands were shaking, blood dripping from his fingers. The guards surrounded him. Guns ready, he looked at the sky, whispered Kylara. Live, and pressed the button. The towers exploded, shields fell. And the rebel fleet fired from above. Blue fire lit the sky, crashing into enemy warships. Kylara stood at the broken throne as the ground shook beneath her. The war was ending. But at what cost? She ran through the flames, calling for Leo. She found him in the rubble, barely breathing. His smile was weak, but still there. I told you, he whispered. Not leaving you. Kylara dropped to her knees. Stay. With me, he closed his eyes. Did we win? She nodded, tears falling. You saved us. Her hand glowed, pressing against his chest. Energy flowed, ancient and pure. For the first time, Kylara used her gift not to fight, but to heal. Light surrounded them, and when it faded, Leo opened his eyes again, alive outside. The people cheered. The enemy had fallen. Kylara stood on the steps of the palace, holding Leo's hand. I am not just your queen. She said to the crowd, I am your sister, your blood, your hope. And I didn't win alone. Far above, in a dark chamber, beyond the galaxy. A new voice watched the battle through a crystal screen, so the key survived. It said, begin the awakening, asterisk. The war was over, but the echoes still lived in the air. Smoke drifted over Narion's capital like ghostly ribbons. Streets once filled with fear were now full of footsteps, but not from soldiers, from survivors. In the royal palace, the golden throne stood cracked but untouched. Not by accident, Kylara had left it that way. A symbol, a reminder that this time, the ruler would not sit above the people, but among them. She walked slowly through the halls in her dark ceremonial robe. Her eyes, once full of fire, were now calm. Behind her, children followed with curiosity. One of them whispered, "Is that really the queen?" Another said, "No. She's something more." Outside, Leo Carter stood on the palace balcony. Looking down at the rebuilt city, his body still carried scars, but he stood tall, not as a soldier, not as a protector, but as a man who had found something worth living. For Kylara joined him, a soft wind moving her silver hair. "The people want a speech," Leo said. Kylara smiled. "Then let them speak. They've waited long enough." Crowds gathered in the square. And Kylara stepped forward. "No crown, no royal flag, only truth. I was created to be a tool," she said, "a key to an ancient power. But I chose something else. I chose to fight. To feel, to love." She looked at Leo. "This man saved me, not because he had to, but because he refused to walk away. Without him, I wouldn't be standing here. I don't care what blood you carry or what planet you're from. Today, we are one people." The crowd roared, not just in celebration, but in relief. For the first time in years, they believed again that night. A quiet celebration filled the air. Fires burned safely. Music returned to the streets. Leo sat with a group of rebels around a small fire. One of them asked, "What will you do now?" Leo thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Never thought this far ahead." Another laughed. "Maybe stay, maybe be the first human commander of Nerion's guard." Kylara found him later in the royal garden. She walked silently, stood beside him. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked. Leo looked at the stars. "I think I found my home here." She reached for his hand, and this time he didn't hesitate. "You saved a princess," she said. "You gave me a reason to fight." Leo smiled. "You gave me a reason to live." Kylara leaned her head against his shoulder. "And now," she said, "you rule with me." "I'm not a ruler," Leo whispered. "You are to me," she replied. They stood in silence, under the twin moons. No longer princess and protector, but partners, but far beyond Nerian skies. In the cold shadows of space, a satellite blinked to life, not one built by humans or Nerians, but something older. Inside, a voice recorded long ago whispered, "If Subject K1 achieves connection with the human, prepare for Phase Omega." A signal was sent. Deep into unknown space, where a dark fleet began to rise. Silent, hidden, ancient, watching the Queen. Watching the human, waiting because peace never lasts, and every light draws a shadow.